just going to go to see if we've come up on the subscriber in the DS. I can't see it, so I'm just going to try to look around for the YouTube link. How do I even find the YouTube link? I don't know.
You and me both.
OG43. Maybe you can help us with the YouTube link. I can't see it coming up in my subscriptions. Hey, Super Hex is here. Awesome, Super Hex. Hey, Super Hex, could you maybe just copy this URL? Hey, E-Type, can you just copy this URL and maybe let people know that this is happening? We weren't able to get the YouTube link out before it started. Okay, here, I've got it right here. I'm gonna copy that link and I'm just gonna put a tweet out about it. I'll link you up, Crypto Mystic. Going live, talking about X and other stuff. Awesome. Okay, so that is going out, and I'm just going to quickly chuck it in the Hedron chat because those guys wanted to.
I'd be interested to know about Hedron too. Also, I didn't really look deep into it, so later on, let's definitely touch base if we have time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Hedron. That's what I'm super excited about at the moment. Awesome. Okay, so I've tweeted it out. I've chucked it in the Hedron Telegram. Maybe I'll just chuck it in the Hex Telegram. Chuck it in the Pulse Telegram. What else? Who else? Well, that's enough. Cool. So we've got a few people. Awesome. Everyone's making comments. Everyone's coming in. Melba Tony, Mango Junkie. Awesome. A lot of people coming in. Beautiful. We've got a little bit of an audience happening. So welcome.
Everywhere.
Yeah, he is. He's the price man. He's always coming up with giving us the price updates.
I see him everywhere.
I don't know if you saw before, but about a few hours ago, someone jacked up the price just before they sacked, and they took the top position for PulseX.
Yeah, I did see that. I'm wondering who that is.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably Rackham Rochelle. I looked at the address. I don't know how they got money into that address. It looks like they sent it from either Secret Network or Tornado or something like that, but you can't see where it came from. So
yeah, Tornado's very interesting.
Yeah, but you would have thought that Rackham hadn't sacrificed up until now, and so does he wait for the last second before the 10 days is up, or does he sort of put it in now? That kind of makes sense that it would be him. I've got no idea. Be interesting to see if there's any other whale games within the next.
Well, it's actually a smart move. If he's trying to take the top spot, it's a good move because he was probably thinking that Hex Whale or God Whale, whatever, was going to hop in, and if he knew that was going to be his top competition, the best way to do it was try to let Hex Whale God make a move first, and this way he knows his competition. So he even went way above and beyond and surpassed him. So he's definitely got it. This move.
Yeah, I wonder how much the that ETH crashing may have played into things as well, because that wouldn't necessarily have been foreseen, and if they had planned to, instead of sacrificing Hex, sacrifice ETH, but then all of a sudden ETH is crashing, and so that's not very good value for them. So, I mean, I guess even everyone has to kind of just play it as it all comes. And
well, right now we're seeing shit's about to hit the fan. I mean, everything that's going on in the world economy. I mean, it's been a long time since what's been going on with Evergrande, but I think we're starting to finally see the ripple effects finally hit the States also. Interest rates are starting to finally get us raising those also, and I think everyone's just looking to where to start putting their money. And it's kind of, I think even a lot of people or the old people are even taking their money out of Bitcoin, because they know they made a amount, at least the OGs, so they might be trying to be secure, but a lot of other people that don't know what to do might be looking to crypto for that next reserve. You know what I mean? So there's lots of things going on right now. And you got to also think that they probably are shaking a tree again for the next move. I mean, the fact that we haven't seen a crash and a peak, we're in something totally different than we were before. I mean, all bets are off. There is no more using past data for the future because we're past that. Things are different. We're in a different ballgame.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that's why when you saw the crash, Bitcoin crash, like it crashed a little bit and then it came back up because after a few months, because people are just like, well, what am I going to do? Hold US dollars? Like, I don't want to be holding that shit. So, and generally out there in the community, like now when I'm doing things like I'm going to my dance workshop or I go to do my acro yoga jams or whatever, like I'm talking to those people and those people now are like, oh, I've got to get into crypto. And what do you know about it? And they're kind of like, people are realizing that stuff is happening and they can't necessarily trust their money in the banks.
Yeah, my number one thing that I try to tell people, I'm like, guys, you got to understand, out of all the dollars made, 40% of those were just printed last year. I go, imagine if you got something rare and sudden that was just about doubled within the next year. I go, what do you think that matters on your value? I go, we don't really see that right now, but you think the other countries or whatever aren't being like, well, you guys just printed all that. You think we're going to give you our goods for the same exact price? And everyone just wants to go around with COVID, but I mean, I'd even think that the way our final system was going, that one would almost even say that this whole thing could have almost been put together to make a reason why the banks could do what they do. I mean, it's called the Hegelian dialect. You know what I'm saying? They make a problem and they already have the solution.
I mean, to me, that's obvious. To me, it's obvious that's what's happening.
It is, but just the ordinary, it's hard to gauge people though nowadays. Like to us, yes, just for the fact that we're in crypto, we have more of a mindset. But when you're looking at the average Joe out there nowadays, I'm just lost on what you see people arguing about. And there's lots of things that can be trickery. People can be tricked if you don't have a complete comprehension of how things are in the correct patterns of what equals what. And that's a perfect example of how and why I would like to lead in the hex right there. Like we're just talking.
Before we get into that, let's just like see like this, like how this kind of came about. So you're on Twitter, you're a crypto mystic on Twitter. And you are actually a Hexican, and you've sacrificed a pulse, as you said to me before. But you're also a bit of a skeptic. And
it's not that I'm a skeptic. It's that I got in under seeing Hex for the way I see it. And coming into the community, I love the community. I loved everyone's stories and how this was just an uplifting thing and everything. And the vibe and energy and everything with it, it's got such a great energy that this can work. But the thing that got me is when how can I say this? What got me is how I see the misunderstanding of it to others. Because if people don't see if we're not all seeing the same thing, and then all of a sudden people start seeing different pictures of it, that's a problem, and things might start cascading.
Let's just wind back. Let's build it up a bit. Let's not jump into the deep end right yet. Let's seduce people a little bit. So let's just start off like, I mean, you were getting into a couple of arguments with people, and Twitter's the place where that kind of stuff kind of escalates out of control. So I invited you onto a live. I said, let's just discuss it all. But first off, like can we just have a quick 5 minutes of like what your crypto journey has been, just as like you as an individual, how you found crypto and what your journey has been?
Yeah, my crypto journey started my background is from the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I went straight in there out of high school, climbed all the way up went from runner to clerk to analyst. And on my journey, I just started seeing that were corrupt. Like, perfect one thing gets me into markets. And one thing, there's actually two things that got me away from the legacy markets. But the first thing being young and seeing things that I wasn't quite understanding how this could happen. All right, so here's an example. Every morning, runners and clerks got to get together because in the trading pits, what happens is brokers sign cards. That's their trading card with all their information for what they're buying or selling. And then the runners go around and we check and make sure that my broker and the opposite broker, the information is correct. It matches. So we do that right off the bat. and that's science. Well, every morning, these runners and clerks get together with information that was typed in to make it official. It's called settlements. Every house is got a clearinghouse, and they all make sure everything is correct. Well, what ended up happening is you'll have seen clerks start getting together, and they'll be like, well, they'll start noticing or be told certain trades they have to do a thing called break them. All they're doing is they're finding these trades and they're ripping them up. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking, I'm like, how is that possible? You guys just tore up a contract that made the market move. Like, it's already past time. The market already moved. There's nothing by letting it go through and not go through. All you're doing is letting someone's account get credited or debited. That's all you're doing. So that already happened. And that's one thing that started to get me that really made me think. I'm like, huh. And then another thing is also just seeing all the negative lifestyle and just understanding that our financial system is run by drug addicts. It is mind-blowing the amount of negative things that are done here. I'll just leave that at that. And then anyways, in 2008, 2009, with Lehman and Bear Stearns, that whole collapse, the markets and everything just started shrinking. Everything started going more and more computers. There was less need for us in the pits, less need for the clerks and everything. So we all just started just vanishing because the guys in the pit used to think that they were the big head honcho and they can move the markets themselves. They had no idea what was after them, and they weren't that savvy to understand the quantitative computer guys coming with their calculations and their strategies wipe them out. These guys were getting outplayed on every single move. That's why I even was brought up to be an analyst, but an analyst is no good if you got a broker that doesn't want to listen to you. So that being said, I ended up going out on my own and started trading myself, trading the S&Ps. And one thing I started noticing my own is there's a thing called psychology to the market. Well, most traders, most people that are in the field, we all get, when you start studying and start learning how to do charts and how to read graphs and all the different, how to use all the different indicators and how to make them and everything, we all have a basic understanding of the same shit. So when we look and we want to enter a market, there's going to be chances that an educated person is, there's going to be a lot of educated people putting in the same position if they're looking at the same chart, just because they're taught, you know what I'm saying? We're looking at the same things. Well, that being said, I started noticing that no ifs, ands, or buts, that the market, once you would put an order in, no matter what, the market was always going and knocking you out, no matter how good position you're getting. And then what reminded me, I'm like, that's what's happening. I go, these guys will go ahead and force the market against you. And then someone would be like, why would they do that? They're going to lose money. No, they're not, because all they have to do is make a phone call to the guys that are doing the clears and everything in the morning. They can rip up that trade I just used to push the market and liquidate all those people down there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what the brokerages do is they push the market against you to get you out and get them and their customers in a better position, and then cancel out that original trade so it never even happened. And then look at crypto market. We see that constantly all the time. I mean, I don't know if the exact same mechanism is happening, but that's what really started making me draw a red flag. Then all of a sudden I got an email from my software company asking me if I wanted to buy upgrades where I can hide my trades from my brokerage. Now this might be something familiar to all of us now, but back then I'm like, what the hell do you mean hide my trades from my brokerage? What is going on? So that's what made me start getting into crypto. And that's why I started dipping in more and more. I'd say I got more invested the past summer. I got in 2017, but it was just the wrong timing. And I just didn't get back in until this last summer. I'd say, actually, no, I'll take back. I'd say in March I got in. And I just been playing the game there, getting in and out, looking into things. And one thing that really gets me is a lot of the misinformation. And it really upsets me seeing, especially understanding the rules of why you can and can't do stuff. Like, perfect example is BitBoy. The way he talks about trades, and the reason, like, it's almost like a perfect example of what he's doing is inside trading. It's straight up inside trading. You know, he's put in a trade, so he's getting. And the best thing is they call themselves advisors. Who are you advising? You're implying that you're an advisor to these guys. When that's not true, you're being paid to advise the community what to buy. And it's just like these mind games and things that they play really upset me. And then on top of that, so he puts in a trade, knows that all he's got to do is talk about it and say it's not financial advice, knowing that it's going all the way up. And on top of that, we find out later all these Twitter feeds how he's being paid to do these. And I mean, once again, it's not bad to use your name and whatever for money, but you got to let that stuff be known. You're not telling that you got an interest in it. You're just saying it's mind blowing how this happens. But I mean, it's insider trading. It's against the law. And it's just because we're in an unregulated market that people aren't calling them out. But I mean, if everyone were to say that, like, dude, what you're doing is totally unethical, then there might be more commotion. But if people aren't taught in the proper ways of doing things and we just go with the mainstream, what the hell has mainstream ever taught any of us? We've all had to go down the rabbit holes to find actual truth. You know what I mean? Even as a child, everyone's naive. The first thing where you actually start learning better is your first traumatic event where you're like, whoa, I can't just be all open and giving and loving. You got to be careful. You got to be more conservative and understand that things happen. And it's almost like this is where a lot of esoteric things go, where they say the darker you go is where you find the light's deepest secrets. It's because the more obstacles you overcome for life and the deeper you go, because not all of us have people that teach us things. So a lot of us got to go through dark things to actually learn the truth. And as long as you keep pushing, you keep on self-developing, you'll start learning a lot of basic life truths that you don't find with a lot of other people. But that all being said, I call myself crypto mystic because there's two things that I love. I love the mysticism and everything that's going on, because I think we're really starting to break out of our paradigm. Like it seems like we broke out of the religious paradigm, we broke out of the scientific paradigm, and now starting to make a new paradigm. But man just doesn't know that we're trying to find out the limits of this new box that we're building, and the fight is what those limits are. And my belief is that it's a mixture of spirituality and science, because there's a lot. It's all about patterns, and our main thing is understanding where.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all really, really interesting stuff.
I know, like I said, I'm sorry. Let's get back to Hex, but that's why I call. Well, that's where we got to. Now, that's why that's how I got into crypto. That's why I call myself domestic.
Well, what about more specifically, like you have actually been arguing with people on Twitter about with hexagons about stuff, and so
Yes.
I'm just curious, like, how did you find Hex? What did you do once you found it, and what are you skeptical about?
Once again, it's not that I'm skeptical. It's that I understand what I see, and I see a slippery slope if we don't all see the same thing. That's an issue. If we all don't see the exact same thing, then that can be an issue. Do you not agree?
No, I don't agree with that. I think everyone's going to have a multitude of opinions, and also people's opinions change over time. And
but see, this is when you're dealing with monetary.
I don't see how we all have to have the same opinion about anything. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, that's the one thing I like about markets. The market is where the rubber hits the road on people's opinion. You know, that's like it's worth this much. All of the people have sold and all of the people have bought, and basically we have this number, which is that is the metric of the value perception.
But we're not talking about opinion. Masses. Nothing I'm talking about is opinion. Monetary instruments. Well, let's get all facts.
Yeah, let's get to specific things that you were arguing with hexagons about. I'm a little bit confused, because although you say you are a hexagon, but you don't. So you see value in it, I assume, because you invest in it. Where do you differ with, let's call it, the majority opinion of hexagons?
Okay, the majority opinion of hexagons is everyone. Okay, you tell me your definition of hex. Tell me where you think Hex gets value, and we'll start from there, because I'll start dissecting that.
Oh, I think it's pretty simple. Hex monetizes time, and time is the one thing that all people in the world have in equal
equal
access to. Yeah, and
can't monetize time. it's impossible to monetize time. That's not how value is created. Value is created through 3 things: resources, effort, and what is it? Damn it! But it's made through resources, effort, and a product. Like, all right, so like oil. So like oil. Okay, so it's a product, right? So okay, so go on. What do you think? What do you say it is? A product?
Well, yeah, it's obviously it's a product. You can buy it and you can hold it.
Okay, so let's go with there. It's a product that has no backing. All right, so perfect example. What happened with Hex is the exact same thing that's going on with Pulse. We all took capital, and now in return, we're going to get coins. There is nothing linking that with value. If Richard, so check this out. What brings value to something is when there's liquidity. Okay, so perfect example, SafeMoon. Or what about that one coin that was just sacrificed for PulseChain, Hadaku or whatever? It said like 1.5 billion or something crazy. Tom Gillespie put a thing up. He's like, what the hell is this? It's like 1.5 billion. Why won't Richard take that? Because there's no liquidity to make that. There's no liquidity. So he can't turn that into actual money. So liquidity is very, very, very important in this issue. So you're talking about liquidity where we have $30 million maybe in liquidity, but yet it's trying to claim that it's a $200 billion token. All right, really? How's that possible? How can you don't think no, it's not. It's not. It's not because it's only backed by $30 million.
So obviously it's possible, but
no, it's only worth $30 million because the minute that someone wants to get $50 million out of it, price goes to zero. There's no liquidity. The LP providers get liquidity from permanent loss. So so then what?
But why? But
I'm sorry, I don't get all excited. This is just me. I don't mean to.
No, I mean the liquidity argument has been made a few times because quite obviously, you look at the index sites and the Hex daily liquidity is a lot less than all of the other coins and tokens. I'd argue that probably a lot of their liquidity is fake liquidity. That's probably wash trading on their centralized exchanges. Because if you do the numbers, they would be they're making.
I love how you say wash trading. What's your definition of wash trading? Do you know what wash trading is?
Well, yeah, that there's on the exchange, because that's a private database.
Yes.
Basically, they have the price moving up and down, but if their price is vastly different from other exchanges' prices, what they'll do is they'll put in fake trades to move their price more in line with everybody else. And then by the same token, if those exchanges have leverage trading on it and they see all of their people going long, for instance, then they'll chuck in a wick which just liquidates all of those longs. And so like you see those that's what a scam wick is. You see those scam wicks happening all the time. So, and if you do the numbers on like how much those exchanges would be making if they had that liquidity that they're reporting, they would be making way more because they make it on volume. You know what I mean? So first of all, I would say that a lot of that liquidity is questionable on other coins. But then also, what I would say about liquidity is that how much liquidity do you need? If you can take $1 million out and not move the price too much, I mean, I suppose if you're a huge player and you want to be making massive moves, like, I don't know for what reason, for betting, I guess, then yes, you can't do it. So in that way, like the low liquidity actually protects against that kind of gameplay by whales, so that there's a plenty of liquidity if people like us want to take out $100,000 or $10,000 or $1 million at them, or 2 million, 3 million. But after, when you get more than that, then you start affecting the price a lot. But also you're just moving it against yourself. So that's why
that's exactly what I'm trying to get at, and this is people don't see as a problem. So it is a problem for the fact that people keep on saying that it's against.
What's an example? What's an example of how it would be a problem?
A big problem is how we're seeing it right now. All right, so check it out. One person wants to sell. Do we know how many people have went from not being even close to wealthy to all of a sudden just decently wealthy, cashing out millions from HexFlex? quite a lot of people. Well, one thing is in order for, let's just say an average Joe Schmo. So for one person to cash out $1 million, and we're seeing this happen multiple times daily, you need 1,000 people putting in $1,000. Now, the problem happens is that this model is not sustainable. If you constantly have people cashing out, and the whole thing where people are saying, well, you won't see whales cash out because it's hurting them. It's happening every day. Every single day. Look at the chart. It's happening. You're seeing the slippage. They're taking energy emergency end stakes. They're constantly ending. Now, since when is big money dumb money? I thought we constantly keep saying smart money, watch the big guys. So we're constantly watching the big guys exit, which is supposed to be smart money, correct? But yet when there's a lot less big whales entering the market. You want to know why? You want to know why you will not see big guys entering the market like they're exiting? Because slippage you're talking about. The exact same slippage that you're talking about is going to stop a billionaire hedge fund from hopping in the market. Why? Because instead of putting in one order and getting it done to their broker, they're going to have to Tweedledum and pay so much damn time to get an order filled. And like, perfect example, what about the guy that just bought earlier? He sent it up to like 29 cents. As soon as he did that, it went from, I'm sorry, not 29. It went to 28.9. Then all of a sudden it went right back down. I mean, as soon as it's happening, people are just waiting
a little bit down. It went a little bit down.
A decent percentage. But that's what I'm saying. One person, one billionaire came in and knocked it up a few percentage points, right? One person that can move it a couple percent, that's a big deal. There's a lot more people that are trying to exit those big positions. No, what I'm saying, a lot more people with that type of money. Or those type. What do you mean? Look at all the red candles. I could go to Dex Tools right now, and you could actually see how many buyers it takes to equal that one sell. It tells you. Look at DexTools. What is it?
Yeah, but that's why the price is the ultimate metric on all of that. Like, it comes down to price.
Yeah,
like, that's the valve. That's the valve. If you know that, I mean, yes, it's harder for billionaires to get into Hex in a big way. They have to get in just like everybody else. And they move the price against themselves.
Another thing, another thing with the liquidity, another thing that's stopping. All right, so you ever notice that as soon as we spike up, you're seeing these quick spikes down? That's because, like I keep on saying, and usually what happens, I won't even say that model, but when noobs are exit liquidity, they are. These guys know where the market's at. They cannot keep pounding it down, so they have to do little bits, just like the big guys that want to enter. These guys are spending the same amount of time trying to exit without crashing the market. That's what I'm saying. The amount of people that have this is crazy. And it would be totally fine if we had more liquidity. But the liquidity being so sensitive, it's going to hurt. Because you want to know what's going to end up happening? All right, so check this out. Here's another thing that people aren't even thinking about. These guys, these gigantic whales that I'm watching, they're doing these stakes that are just doing it for like a month or two. You're talking about what are they coming out with? They're earning millions upon millions of hex a month, right? They're jacking up the keep. Okay, so, all right, so no. Let me finish my thought. Let me just finish my thought. So they're going ahead and they're doing this constantly. They're jacking up the T-share price, which everyone says is great. Well, guess what? There's going to become a time where people that are entering are not going to get that same 40% APY that they're going to get. They're going to need more and more and more money, especially as hex prices rise, if it ever gets back up again. But there's going to become a point where it's unattractive to the regular Joe Schmo very, very quickly, especially if it goes up to $1. And I think, tell you the truth, by the time it gets up there, there's so many of these people waiting to exit, and that's another thing. Pulse is just another way. Look at these people sacrificing those gigantic amounts of money. That means it's sitting there liquid. That means they didn't have that much confidence in Hex because it wasn't staked, remember? So if they were that invested in it, it would have been staked, but they're not. They've been holding on to it, which they're waiting to get out of, and they can't cash out because they'll crash the market. So they're putting it into other ones, which is PulseChain, PulseX. Here's another question I have. What would Hex's price be if there was no Pulse? That's a scary, scary thought. Do you not think?
No,
where would
I don't.
it be? Where would the whole? Oh, come on! Now that's just not even being intellectually honest, Bloobum. That's not being honest. You're gonna tell me that you think the same FOMO would have came in the Hex if PulseChain did not launch?
to be perfectly honest, I think it's something irrelevant to argue about. Like, what if this
it's not,
hadn't
because
happened? It's like it's happening, so that's what it is. That's what we can see. You know what I mean? Like, if PulseChain, if there was no necessity for PulseChain to launch, then it'll probably be a lot easier.
No. But PulseChain launching
Hang
is
on.
direct.
Let me talk.
Okay, I
If
apologize.
if there hadn't have been a necessity for PulseChain to launch, we might have been onboarding a ton more people because the ETH fees would have been low, right? At
Please
the moment,
explain how the fees would have been low.
oh that's the whole reason for PulseChain. The whole reason for PulseChain is because the Ethereum gas fees got so high. So if someone had $50 or $200 they wanted to chuck in, they couldn't do that. And so all of those people, all of those masses of people, all those people in Africa, all those people who just have a little bit they want to try it out with, right? It was prohibitive for them to come in.
No, I totally get with all that. But you're trying to say that if it wasn't for Pulse, then just as much, then those people would have put all that same money into Hex, is what you said.
I think we would have had a lot more onboarding. Yeah, we would have had a lot more people onboarded into Hex. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at the moment, ETH has become, a people with a bit of money's game to play. You know what I mean? Because
ETH is a problem, no offense or buts. ETH is a problem, no offense or buts. And I'm not saying there's not a need for PulseChain. I'm not saying that. There is definitely a need for PulseChain. But what I'm saying is the FOMO that led into the PulseChain and the PulseX, where would have that energy came from? There's no way, when you look at those sacrifices, there's no way that money would have been per Hex in this amount of time. Come on. You could look at the volume and compare it to the sacrifice phase. That's not, the numbers won't even match. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter. And this is the reason why I didn't want to have this live.
That's not what's happened. Like, you have to deal with the reality of
realities. I am dealing with realities, and I'm dealing with how things work because I've studied how these things work and can go down negatively. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyone heard of Bernie Madoff? Do you know that was the number one reason why that didn't even get busted is because even though a top analyst went and accused him, called him out and everything, he had so much clout because he was one of the founders of NASDAQ games, SEC. He was a big king ding about all these commission organizations, so they never came at him. Went 30 years plus. But guess what? The only reason why he got busted is people finally went to the bank to cash out because of 2008, 2009. Otherwise, it would have never happened. So what I'm trying to say is when people go to the bank,
hang on, I'm sure there's a lot of information that we don't know about that kind of stuff as well. Like, how did Bernie Madoff get going for so long? Well, how did Epstein keep going for so long? Where did Epstein get his money from? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was other stuff with Bernie Madoff and like. So there's a lot of stuff we don't know about that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's kind of a bit veering off topic. Like, so,
all I'm saying is how big things could go on forever. All I'm saying is just because something isn't happening now doesn't mean that it's not true. Just because I'm saying something could happen and you don't see it right now as a possibility because you don't see it as a possibility whatsoever. What I'm saying, you know what I mean? And
what don't I see? I don't see Hex price crashing or what?
But okay, when I was trying to compare to like a Bernie Madoff, as far as something getting busted over a long period of time, like I was trying to compare what I was trying to say.
Do I think Hex is going to get busted for insider?
What I'm saying is just because it hasn't been busted now, and there's nothing that shows that it is.
But what would it get busted?
He's got the pattern. He's got the pattern that matches those other patterns. Let's just say that.
Who?
Richard, and the way the Hex and the money backing up. And how you just when you need new people to pay out the old ones, what's that called? I won't say it because I'm not trying to go against it. Okay, it's called a Ponzi scam.
Yeah, but this is not new people. This is not new people paying out old people. That's just any market.
Old people cannot cash out unless new people come in. Old people right now, if everybody's buying Hex, nobody can cash out without it crashing.
Yeah, that's the same with any. No one can. Hang on. That's not a Ponzi. A Ponzi, that's any market, what you're describing. Ponzi is when...
No, it's not. Let's get up a definition of a Ponzi right now. Let's look it up.
I'll tell you what it is. First of all, it's based on fraud, right? And it's based on people making promises about what they pay back. And then as those new investors come in, those old people are being paid the returns they're promised, but they don't know. But it ends up all crashing down because it doesn't work. But with Hex, it's a contract. It's a contract. It's an immutable contract. It's an immutable contract, which is
not
your
backed. It's not backed.
risk.
It's backed by nothing. If it had a backing, all right. So put it this way: you guys ever hear of Wonderland Time?
It's backed by code. It's backed by the code and the immutability of it.
No, I'm talking about only capital backed.
But hang on. You've got the Hex contract, which is in terms of Hex, and then you've got the price of Hex, and they're two completely independent things. So in terms of people putting their Hex into the Hex contract, they can always get out what the contract is telling them will happen, because the contract self-balances.
Yeah, they can always get their Hex back, but what about capital? Because we're not in it to get.
Absolutely. If everybody sells Hex, then the price goes down. But then as soon as people start selling Hex, it becomes attractive for other people to buy it. And so like any market, right, it's going to depend on how many people are holding or how many people are selling and how many people are buying, right? Now, because Hex incentivizes people to hold and to lock it up for long periods of time, that's why the price has gone up over the 2 years. That's why it's done the 10,000x. And there have been massive dips where people are taking profits and are starting to spend it out into their real life. But the trajectory is very obviously up. So
here's another thing we need.
It is working in terms of how it's aligned in incentives. But at any moment, yes, everybody could decide that they want to sell it.
It doesn't even take everybody. It takes one person.
I think that's
the problem. It doesn't take everybody. It takes one person. That's the problem. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people that can do it. What do you mean?
No, because if any big whale just like dumps down, that's basically like there's going to be a whole lot of people ready to buy it up, because it's like.
You think so? You don't think that would worry a lot of people? You don't think you'd see even more emergency unstakes? Listen, this is one thing too. Everyone's putting too much trust. Everyone's putting too much trust in thinking that it's going to go. Human psychology dictates that everyone looks out for their self-interest. Period. And we can't ever dictate and we can't ever predict what's going to happen in someone else's life. And we're also going ahead and assuming that a bunch of these people were already well off before they got paper rich with Hex, which is not true.
So hang on, do you see the discrepancy between your behavior and your arguments? Like you said to me that you said to me that you're invested in Hex. Are you staking or are you just holding liquid?
I'm staked. 15-year stake also. And see, this is the problem. This is the thing. See, I care more about truth than anything. I don't care if it costs my all. I don't care. Like that's another thing too. I said most people work of interest. There are people that hold themselves to. I'm not even going to go ahead and say any of that. But listen, I don't care if it costs me money. If I lose money so that more people understand things, and if it goes and it makes a dip, but that means more people come to an understanding of what it is, and therefore we can see more of a higher rise because everyone's on the same page, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. That makes more logical sense to get everyone unified to a complete understanding. And these are not opinions. These are facts. When you're dealing with money and monetary instruments, these aren't people's opinions. This is code, correct? Money is like these are facts. I don't understand how these opinions keep coming up with. Huh?
So what are you talking about? What's the fact that you're talking about that's not an opinion?
Like when you were trying to tell me before, you were trying to say it was my opinion what Hex was, and as far as what brings it value and everything, these are not my opinions. These are what, like, if you that's one thing too. I've never seen Richard with any actual real financial person that has the background that's made, and that's one thing. He might have one that talks with them, but I want to see one that understands what they're talking about against him. Like who actually just had a decent. Coach K just had a good interview with Nerd Girl was on it, and that not Mind Your B. Those guys were understanding where they were going, and that interview got shut down real quick. But they understood what they were talking about. No, it had to end. I'm not going to say it got shut down because of that. But what I'm saying is they were not going to go further along that line of talking, and it just happened to be at the end of the limit where the show had to end. I would have loved to see where that line of questioning would have went further. That's 100% sure, because Minor B and Coach K understand more of how markets work, especially Coach K, because he's been in the markets. He is a trader, like professionally. He gets paid to trade. He has an understanding. But what I'm at is,
but they were talking about proof of stake versus proof of work mainly.
okay, no, now we're trying to get into what equals value. Okay, proof of stake will work. It will work, but the only way it'll work is if every dollar put in stays in it. Like with PulseChain, we just went ahead and sacked all this money for Pulse, right? And then what? Took it away. So when all of our money launches, it's backed by absolutely nothing. And for the fact that no one understands the importance of that is scary. That is very frightening, that no one understands how important that is for a market. And then everyone's just like, oh yeah, I'll go up. We're just going to wait for some people to buy, and liquidity will be put in, and that's it. Exactly. Liquidity is going to be the only thing that allows people to cash out. Otherwise, everyone's sitting around with monopoly money. Yeah, well, you know what? I'll take that back, because the one thing Pulse does have, it has utility. It is going to be used for something. So there, yeah, Pulse can't actually gain that. That will actually work for it, but it still has no backing. It's going to have to work. It's going to have to go through so much work and so many dumps, because hopefully it has more liquidity than. I remember, and that's one thing too. I think clarify if I'm wrong, because I'm not too sure on where everything is right now. I know Richard said that he wasn't going to provide liquidity for PulseChain. Is he still now, or what? Because I know he said PulseX was going to have the most liquidity there is. So how is that going to work if he's not providing it?
I mean, let's see
how
what happens.
How can he even make that statement if he's not the one providing it then? You know what I mean? Like that's either that's false marketing, that's leading, or that's not being totally honest. And then here's another thing. What about this extra coin that you're supposed to get paid in? Okay, with Sushi Swap, if you go ahead and you do an LP or Pancake, you're getting paid in that DEX, in that coin. What's the name of this other coin that we're supposed to get? How's that even going to get value? I'm just curious. These are things that are just in the top of my head that blows my mind, that people are investing into something without even knowing what they're being paid out in. But yet we're trusting Richard. What are we in crypto for? I thought it was not for trusting people and knowing everything before we get into it. Obviously, a lot of people are starting to get into things before they know into it. Kind of almost falls into the financial system we fall that no one understands.
Okay, so you're talking a lot, and you're jumping around a lot, and you're putting a lot of stuff out there. But if you want to actually have a discussion / debate, let's just tackle one thing at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you wanted to talk about the rewards token. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, whatever you would like to talk with. I think I touched base on what I wanted to, as far as with go on further with Hex. But yeah, let's go with the pulse thing. I'm very curious as far as that.
Well, I don't see a need to necessarily convince you. I think you've presented your case, and we obviously have differing opinions on the value.
You go with the opinions thing.
Opinions,
but they're not opinions. You can look up how things made with value, and these are standards in human civilization. Like, there might be different mechanisms, but two people listen, if I wanted to make a product, in order for me to sell you this lighter, I'm going to go ahead and put money into a manufacturer that's going to make it. Okay, then he's going to sell it to you. Why does this? And you're only going to need this for what? Oh, see, we're going to have to go on. And I might have to make up a thing. Let's just do it simple with I smoke. I need a vape. You go ahead and you make these. All right. The only reason why I'm paying you for this is because I need value of it. I think of it. But if I didn't smoke, what value would this have to either one of us? It would have nothing. Okay. But the only reason why this has value and it's able to be made is because someone put money into it, because they know that they could make money off of it. In order for this product to be made, human energy had to be put into it, the effort to make this value. And if I can't get more out of you than this is worth, then it's not worth making this. This is what makes it valuable. This is how we get into a market. But if I'm able to make these up out of nowhere, just out of nowhere, and I charge you $100 for them, why would you pay $100 for them if you know if I'm making up out of nowhere? You see what I'm saying? If it's made up out of nowhere, there's no energy put into it.
What are you comparing this to? Sorry,
I'm comparing it to how you make a value out of something. All right, out of a simple product, the way you make values, you put energy into something and you manufacture it. Okay, how about a financial instrument? What about financial instruments? The way everything is money with a financial. Okay, even with Bitcoin and Ethereum, the whole proof of work thing. Energy is put to, all right, so what is mining? Here, this is the best way to example. What is mining? Real gold. What is mining? Mining takes the human body to go ahead and mine, put effort in for this little piece of gold. And all that work that I put in, I'm not selling this little piece of gold for less than I think that it's valuable. So that makes the market, right? My time, my energy made this resource valuable, correct? What else makes this gold valuable? Is it has utility.
Now, what made it valuable is how much other people want it.
Yeah, but what makes it valuable also is my time and energy that I put into it. If I didn't put time and energy into it, it wouldn't be because it wouldn't be on the market.
No, you can say that. You can also make a piece of art and say I spent 1,000 hours on this, and therefore it should be worth this much. Ultimately,
and that's what makes it valuable, and people agree to pay for it.
Hang on. Ultimately, the value is what someone is willing to pay for it.
Yes,
that's what value is.
When it comes to monetary items.
But no, everything. That's how we measure stuff. Like, yes, absolutely. You can. There are things which are very hard to value, and and if you're not valuing it in terms of money, there are other reasons, other ways that you can value it. I value spending time with a friend, you know what I mean, or something like that. But in terms of like products, ultimately the value is, that's why we have a market. The market is all of the shared opinion coming down into one metric, and so you have what people are willing to pay for it is the value. Simple. If nobody wanted to buy gold, guess what happens? The price of gold goes to zero. It doesn't matter but hang on, I went and worked 1 million hours to do all that sort of stuff. Now you have to pay me. And the other people are going, yeah, sorry, mate, I'm not interested in that. Then it's worth nothing. It doesn't matter how much work you've put into it.
Gold has been used and worked for 2,000 years because it has been something that has always attracted the human eye. And the fact that it's been valuable is because it takes time and energy to get it.
I couldn't give a shit.
Because you can't create it out of nowhere. Before that, people were using it even after that. What about tally sticks? You ever hear about tally sticks? Ever hear about getting the short end of the stick? I'm explaining the history of money to you.
This is just you trying to sell it to me. This is just you trying to up the value of it. This is just you trying to say,
what?
Because blah, 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 blah. Because blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, what it is worth is how much you can get for it.
All right, no, we're trying to talk about monetary things. What about the dollar? The dollar is no longer backed by gold. Here's a perfect example. The dollar is no longer, when it was backed by gold, it was good for gold. It was backed by something. Why? Okay, so here's a perfect example. What happened once the U.S. started printing too many dollars? After the Bretton Woods Agreement, everyone was linked after World War II. All the countries were together. We had all the gold in Fort Knox, and all the dollars were supposedly backed by gold. And then what happened? All of a sudden, America is just printing all types of shit. We're buying shit all over the place. All of a sudden, the rest of the country is like, wait, what the hell is going on? Where's all this money coming from? They're not allowed to print more dollars than the gold that they can back it by. That's how we account. This is how we hold people accountable. And what ended up happening is France went ahead and sent a battleship towards New York Harbor. That ended up getting turned around. And then in return, Nixon went ahead and took us off the gold standard. Now, where did that lead us? To the printing frenzy that we just got into. So that's why accountability is very important. And that's why I'm saying Hex could be that accountability, because we can keep account of it. But what it lacks is the backing that initially had. It was taken. All of the backing that it had was taken, and only a little bit is given to the LP. Because that, you see what I'm saying?
No.
We don't understand. All right, so Hex had the dollar had value as long as it was backed by gold. It had value.
That's the narrative as well.
What do you, dude? That's exactly what happened. What? Explain to me. What do you not agree about that? Okay, about that narrative. What do you not agree about it?
Well, I couldn't be asked getting into like why the dollar had value when it was backed by gold. But basically, that's just as much of a narrative as any of this other crap. Like,
no, it
the
brings
whole
accountability to it. It brings
cryptocurrencies-
accountability to it because everyone had a certain amount of gold in Fort Knox. That's why it's important, because everyone had a limited amount.
Well, that's what they said. Yeah, I mean,
so that's why it was important. And the minute you take that backing away, then all of a sudden someone can get out of control and start printing. So that's why accountability got kicked away.
Okay. Let's just we can probably agree that the dollar is like worthless and not backed by anything, and
that's what I'm trying to say. Hex is no longer backed by anything except the LP. The only backing Hex has is what's sitting in that LP. That's it. The 30 million. That's it. The 200 billion. There's no backing to it. The LP positions are only liquidity. It's the only liquid. It's the only thing that has backing to it. You can't use Hex to buy anything. You can't use this collateral.
People are incentivized to
earn more paper, make more Hex, which is worth.
No, to give their other Hex value. I mean, that's why whales put into
liquidity. What gives their Hex value? Okay, so what gives their Hex value? What gives it value is the market, like you said, right? That's the metric of it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so if
you're a big whale and you have a ton of Hex and you want it to maintain value, you put into liquidity pools to make sure that there is a market.
Okay, but too bad we're not seeing that, huh?
Well, of course we are.
No, we're not. It's been a constant 30 million since I've been tracking. Since I got into Hex, I've only seen a constant 30 million liquidity.
That's the efficiency of the market. If anything, that's the efficiency of the market, because it's so much more valuable to stake Hex rather than put it into liquidity pools. Whales decide to put it into liquidity pools.
People don't want a permanent loss. That's a great reason not to put it in there.
Well, they're eating permanent loss in order to have it in liquidity pools. They're eating that cost because they think it's going to keep the rest of their Hex bags. It's going to give the rest of their Hex bags value.
Okay.
So let's move on. Let's move on to we wanted to talk a bit about Hedron, because that's something that
yes, please. I would love to hear more
about. So oh yeah, what do you have any questions about it?
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about it. So what is it? From my take of it, it's very, very limited. I don't know anything at all, really. I haven't looked into it, but first impressions is that it's something that we can use for those that staked. Is it a way to get out of your stake positions to somebody else that wants it without us emergency unstaking and affecting the market? Am I correct?
The best way to think of it is that its distribution model is that it's only being the only people that can mint Hedron are people who have shares, who have stakes, and they mint it by how many shares they have and how many days they've served. So let's say you have a 10-year stake and you've served a year of it. What you'll be able to do is you'll be able to mint how many B shares you have multiplied by how many days you have served, and you'll get that Hedron. And then after an amount of time, if you want, you can mint again. That's at the most basic level. That's how people will get Hedron. Now, there's a whole lot of other gamification added on to that.
That's what I was curious about. Can I just ask one question real quick? The only one question I have, and tell me if I'm wrong, I probably am. So is it something like a futures thing? So when we sell...
No, it's not.
No. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? So you're only getting... You're not going to get more. What I was going to say is, like, say I got a stake right now for 15 years, and I see the price of it compared to the market. If I go and I mint Hedron, am I getting the market price right now for that? Or is it going to be a little bit more because someone's going to pay an incentive to have a stake that started earlier?
Okay, hang on. There's two things. There's a few things here. So first off, what I'm talking about now is just with our stakes that we have at the moment. We'll call them native stakes. Stakes made just straight directly through the Hex contract that we all have now. With that, we'll be able to mint Hedron. Hedron is going to have its own market. It's a token, and it's going to have its own market. And who knows what the price of that is going to be?
Oh, okay. So it's going to have that's what I was wondering. It's going to have its own. It's not going to be correlated anyway with Hex. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Well, it might be. It might be. It's probably going to be more correlated with the cost of shares, the cost of B shares.
That's what I'm saying. It's futures play. It's because people are going to be buying high Hedron based on, do they think the price, their stake is good or their stake is bad? Like, perfect example. What I'm trying to say is, like, say I staked, like, maybe when your stake is going to be worth a lot more than my stake because you staked a lot earlier than me. Say you staked one in the beginning. I just staked 6 months ago. Your stake's going to be worth a lot more than mine. So if we were to do a futures type contract, your contract would be worth more than mine.
So let's clear a few things up. So that's how you mint on your native stake. And at the moment as well is you can just, and actually, I'll go into the incentives. Like when this contract launches, which is expected to be January 31st, there's going to be 100 days of bonuses. For the first 10 days, you'll get a 10x bonus on minting. For the second 10 days, like days 11 to 20, you'll get a 9x bonus, and so on and so forth. So if you have a stake now and that it has served an amount of days and you want to mint in those first 10 days, you'll get the amount of Hedron, which is B shares multiplied by the days served, and then you'll get a bonus of 10x of that. So you're essentially getting an 11x amount of Hedron, right? So there's that, but what you'll also be able to do is just run a claim function, and that just basically locks in that 10x bonus for the life of the stake. So when you mint or you claim in those first 10 days, you're locking in that 10x bonus. So if you then go wait a year or 2 or 3 or a week or whatever amount of time, and you mint at later on in that stake, you'll still get that 10x bonus. So there's a high incentive for people to claim and mint in those first 100 days. Now that's just with native stakes, right? But it also happens with what are called HSI stakes, and they're stakes made through the Hedron contract. So stakes made through the Hedron contract, they give a few other options to stakes. One of the most brilliant ones is that we will be able to tokenize a stake. So if you make a stake in the first, let's say in the first 10 days of the Hedron contract with this HSI, you automatically get the 10x bonus Hedron attached to that whenever you decide to mint it, but you don't have to mint it. You make like a Quattro Cinco. Then what you can do is tokenize that stake, which turns it into an NFT. Then you can transfer it to another address. And that allows you to either transfer it for security reasons or transfer it as a present to somebody else, or you can put it on the market and sell it. So we're going to be able to like sell a Quattro Cinco stake that has been going for 5 years or has been going for 10 years. And there's going to be a market for those stakes, right? So there's that. And then the other option, which is a much more advanced feature, is that you'll be able to borrow the amount of Hedron that you will mint or you could mint in the future, right? So let's say you have a Quattro Cinco in this HSI and you press the borrow button. You get to borrow all of the Hedron that is going to mint. So 5,555 days or whatever it is, multiplied by how many B shares it is, right? Just multiply by the B shares it is. You get to borrow that amount of Hedron. You then have to pay back that Hedron every month. And the total amount over all of those years attracts an interest rate. And that interest rate is worked out as half the hex APY at the point that you made that borrow. So let's say the hex APY was 40% on that day. The interest for that borrow will be 20%, but not per annum. It'll be 20% over the whole entire length of that stake. And then the payments get divided up into every 30 days, and you have to pay back every 30 days. If you miss 3 times in a row and it gets to 90 days, then someone has the ability to come in and pay that borrower for you and then that puts that liquidation into an auction. Now, once it's in an auction, there's 24 hours where other people can come in and place a higher Hedron bid for that hex, because now it's the hex stake that they're bidding for. So they can come in and put a higher amount of Hedron for that hex stake. And that goes for 24 hours. And then if somebody makes it like within 5 minutes after the 24 hours, an extra 5 minutes is put on. So people can keep bidding for that until somebody wins it. Once they win it, all of that Hedron for that was paid for that stake gets burnt, as well as people make installment payments for their borrows, those Hedron get burnt as well. So Hedron is kind of like an advance that you can get, and which is deflationary for the Hedron token, because all of that stuff gets burnt. All of that Hedron gets burnt.
Now, is it a fork of Liquidity the way Liquid Loans is, or is it built on its own?
No, it's completely different. It's completely different. It's a guy who's called, his name is Alex. He's in the Hedron Telegram chat at the moment. You can talk to him. And he's just written the contract. You can try it out on Pulse Testnet version 2 and do all of this stuff. It's got an audit in the works that should be coming out. Like you can see, if you go to the CERTIC website, you can see that they're in the progress of auditing it. And he's in a bit of a back and forth with them. And he's added a few things, because as people have come in and have made suggestions, they've been like, that auction was a community suggestion, and that being able to claim was actually an OG43 suggestion. And there are other suggestions that have been made, like there's a few changes that have been made, and that's just from community members coming in and suggesting these changes, and then people discussing it, and then him having a think about it, and he's decided, yeah, I think that's a great idea, and he's gone and coded that. So there's a few changes that are going in, and so that's what's extending out the audit. And it won't be launched until the audit is fully public. They're looking to launch it on January the 31st, but if it needs more time, then he'll take more time. And he's also said that if Richard Hart comes along and says, I don't think this is a good idea, he said he's prepared to, throw it all in the trash bin. He's very much an OG Hexican who wants the best for the Hex community. And this, in terms of like what this will do for the Hex price, like think about this, like how many people are emergency end staking because they need a little bit of money, when instead through this, they could borrow that Hedron to do whatever they need to do, and then a few months, and then a bit more liquidity comes in and they can pay it off and whatever, you know what I mean? So it gives them, so instead of people emergency end staking and dumping all that Hex onto the market, people can now keep their Hex stakes. Now, when people have tokenized Hex stakes, how much more incentive is it going to be for people to make the maximum length Quattro Cinco stakes? Because you can make that Quattro Cinco, turn it into an NFT, and if in 5 years you want to sell it, now you're not going to have to wait the full 15 years. You're going to be able to sell it for whatever the market gives it at that time. And if you make it in the first week, it's going to also have that 10x bonus of Hedron potentially attached to that stake as well. So that's going to be an added premium if you make those HSI stakes in that first 10 days or in the first 100 days. So that's just basically, it's just like incentivizing people to stake for longer, incentivizing people to hold Hex. Like, I don't see why anyone will even need to sell Hex in the future. I think it's incredibly price positive for Hex, and it's going to, have no.
Everyone's got to realize GAINZ sooner or later. You got to realize GAINZ sooner or later. Yeah, otherwise, what's good for it?
Well, the way you'll be able to realize them is by selling the whole stake to someone who keeps that whole stake. So they're not actually dumping those Hex on the market; they're just selling stakes.
Yeah, so that's great.
So that's why I'm selling. You'll never be able to sell. You'll never have to sell your Hex. Like you sell stakes instead of the Hex.
And everything will go great as long as that's good. But I don't want to go over the Hex thing anymore. One question I had, maybe with Pulse is, where's the stable coin? I know, is it only Liquid zones we're looking at? Do we know, is there other stablecoin that we're going to be able to move in and out of on PulseChain?
Yeah, I don't really know much about that. It's like, I guess that you have all the USDC and the USDT that gets forked over as well. So whatever.
Well, that's what
Like,
I'm saying. Until those devs come up, the only reason why USDC is even worth it, or even Tethers, because we don't even know if they're totally backed, but they're supposed to be backed $1 to $1. Once when we come to the whole back and liquidity thing, and that's what I'm trying to wonder as far as like when we get all Pulse and everything. Like even if people do want to sell and everything, what are we selling into? How can we draw that value out into the real? It's one thing I still haven't found yet, and I'm still wondering.
What you'll do is you'll bridge back over to Ethereum. Well, either exchanges will take up PulseChain, hopefully, and you'll be able to directly move your Pulse to an exchange so that you can swap it into your fiat. Even better would be is if like we actually
start. Wait, so you mean centralized exchanges like Coinbase? There's talk of PulseChain going on centralized.
Yeah, well, if you want to like spend in the real world, that's pretty much the way people do it. Right? Unless, I mean, what would it be even better than that is if people actually accepted payment for things in
what I'm saying, no, the way people do it with Hex right now is they go ahead and they switch into a stable coin, USDC or Tether, and then they bring that stable to a central exchange.
That's not how I do it, and that's not how a lot of Australians do it, because we don't have those stable coins on Australian exchanges.
Oh, so how do you guys do it then? See, that's just my total ignorance, and it's all, we're in our own little zones. So yeah, how do you guys do it then?
Well, I swap it into ETH and then send it back to Australians. Send it into ETH and then send it to our exchanges.
Oh, and you guys probably got ones that I've never even heard of. So but you guys got Binance, Coinbase, and all that, right? Okay.
We can do Binance.
So what stable coin do you guys sell it into, or do you guys just go straight into your Australian dollar?
We don't have a stable coin.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So when you sell your Ethereum, what are you selling it into? Straight Australian dollars, or your own currency? Okay, that's what I'm wondering. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
And so hopefully, like Pulse will actually be on some of these exchanges. I know Hex hasn't been, but but if not, then I guess we bridge back to Ethereum and then move that Ethereum back in. But you know what? I would just love to avoid all of that completely and just actually use my crypto to buy things in the real world. And I think that will. I think that's
absolutely
end up coming, because it's just why all that added friction. I think that vendors are going to start. And you're already seeing that, you can buy property now with, crypto, and you can.
See, that's so weird that we have different avenues. It's so weird that we have different avenues, because you say that you would just love to spend crypto, and I'm sitting here thinking that what I do, everyone does. All I do is I spend crypto. I spend it out of the USDC card, because Coinbase gives you your own little debit card, and Crow's got the same thing, crow.com. They give you your own little debit cards, and you could, not only do you get a little bit of interest for holding the stable coin, but you actually get crypto back. Like instead of frequent flyer miles, you get like a little tiny percentage of crypto back. And why get an incentive back?
The nice thing is it seems to be that there's competition with all of those companies to get to the crypto money. So I think that we'll be fine getting our crypto back into, buying things in the real world, because there's going to be people competing to get at all of that economic energy. But anyway, we've been going for a while, and we've actually in 20 minutes time we have the Hex conference is starting, and so people are going to be jumping onto that. Just like in closing, is there any kind of last comments that you'd like to make or anything like that?
No, we're all good. I just wanted to try to touch the ground and a little bit more things. I mean, I think we made maybe a tiny bit of work today. If we'd like to talk more in future, that'd be great. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't come off combative. I hope you didn't feel that whatsoever. It's just I get really hyper, and I don't really have too many events for it. Especially when I get in dialogue, I get very enthusiastic. So any combative, I totally apologize. I wish you nothing but the best, especially over there. I know you see my tweets. And let's just united we stand. You know what I'm saying? I just want everyone to see the same thing. That's all. And that all being said, it's been a great talk. You have a great one, and I wish you guys the best over there.
Yeah, thanks, man. And you didn't come across as combative to me. I think that you came across as very passionate, and like you get into that flow of ideas, and you have that's ideas coming and coming and coming and coming.
I know I get sporadic sometimes. I apologize.
Yeah, and
I know.
and we all do that to an extent. You know, you can jump around. We jump around in our thoughts, and if we start talking, like, it goes all over the place. That happens with everyone.
Yeah.
And I think it's been really fun. And yeah, like I look forward to if you want to have a chat again sometime in the future, let's do that. And thanks to everyone hanging out in here. I was trying to kind of concentrate on what he was saying, so I wasn't really, like, I was only glancing at the comments every now and then. But thanks to everyone for joining us. And thanks OG43 for setting all this stream up. Thanks Discourse Syndicate for having us on. And yeah, everyone, good luck, and thank you.
Tip to cap. Thank you guys. Take care.